Daniel Yergin, Putin has destroyed the economy he took 22 years to build. As the world scrambles for oil, Iran will emerge as an important alternative. Daniel Yergin, vice president of S&P Global, and a leading energy expert, shared that Russian President Vladimir Putin once shouted at him in an international forum, for daring to ask about a sensitive topic, shale gas. Yergin is essentially about Russia's plan to diversify its economy away from dependence on oil and gas exports. But the word shale provoked a fierce reaction from the Russian leader, who in 2013. Putin knew well that shale gas would eventually compete with Russian gas in Europe. He also understands that shale will enhance America's global strategic position, Yergin told Nikkei in a recent interview. On both issues, Putin is right. But he made a serious mistake in predicting Europe's response to Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, Yergin insists. The Europeans reacted strongly, despite their dependence on Russian energy. Now, Putin has destroyed the very economy he built, the energy expert concluded. Here is an edited version of the interview. Q. How has the Ukraine crisis affected the energy market? A. There is no such thing as things as usual after what happened. Putin has destroyed what he spent 22 years building for the Russian economy. Hardly anyone can really imagine the scale of punishment for Russia's invasion. This is a huge miscalculation by Putin. He thinks Europe's dependence on Russian energy will be enough to prevent Europeans from reacting aggressively, as they have done. One of his main goals is to divide and disrupt NATO. But the result was the opposite. We have seen a 180-degree shift in Germany. The first step in sanctions is to suspend, or essentially cancel, the Nord Stream 2 project. And so, this $11 billion pipeline will just sit under the Baltic Sea. It used to be one of Putin's great goals, but is now another example of his miscalculation. Q. Was the Soviet Union more careful in its use of energy weapons during the Cold War? A. Even during the Cold War, the Soviet Union and Russia wanted to send a message that our energy supplies are not political, that we are a reliable supplier. One major consequence of Ukraine conflict is that the Europeans will go to great lengths to reduce their dependence on Russian gas. They will do it in 3 different ways. One is an additional supply of liquefied natural gas, LNG. The second is the internal gas supply, and accordingly there will be some efforts, especially in the North Sea, to boost European and British production. And third, this will be a big driver. Promote renewable energy. There is concern about the coming winter in Europe. Continents will enter winter with low energy reserves and they will need to accumulate those. So in the short term it is a challenge for Europe. No one knows what the end will be. Q. What about oil? A. Russia exports 7.5 million barrels of oil per day, about half of which goes to NATO countries. There are currently several million barrels of oil trapped. Black Sea tankers leave with Russian oil, but are not allowed to dock, because the companies say they will not buy Russian oil. Russia's oil industry will be in turmoil for the foreseeable future. They will not be able to receive letters of credit. And banks don't want to take the risk. There is also a new factor emerging, reputational and value issues. Not only oil companies, other companies are also pulling out. All attempts to integrate Russia into the global economy are being reversed. Essentially, Russia is being unplugged or disconnected from the world economy. I fear that we could plunge into a scramble for oil supplies. That is why, right now, coordination between governments and industry is so important. Q. If an oil scramble occurs, where will the replacement oil come from? Who will replace Russia? A. The number one candidate is the Arab Gulf countries. Diplomacy is now very drastic. We could get an extra 2 million barrels of oil a day from the Gulf countries. Second, reaching a nuclear deal with Iran, which looks like it's close to being done, will give the market more money. 1 million barrels of oil per day. America. U.S. production for the year could increase by about 900,000 to 1 million barrels per day. Those are important numbers. In addition, we will also get more oil, albeit in small volumes, from Canada, Brazil, and Guyana. Q. In the new map, energy, climate, and the clash of nations between nations, he wrote a lot about Ukraine. A. At the end of the Cold War, Russia, Ukraine, Europe, and natural gas were at the heart of the debate. They are the subject of great tension between Russia and the West. Putin believes that the West is in decline. He said that the US is preoccupied with domestic problems, and Europe is also preoccupied with problems within the bloc. What happens in international crises is often due to miscalculation, and people don't really see the consequences. Putin is isolated, and perhaps he is in a situation where people only dare to tell him what he wants to hear. He doesn't meet many people. Apparently he only let a small group of people with similar backgrounds from the KGB, stay by his side. It seems that his economic advisors have been completely pushed out. When people come to see the president of Russia, he will receive them at the ridiculously long table. He is very afraid of COVID. There are many rumors. Does he have a certain disease that makes himself immunocompromised? Vladimir Putin was very angry at the dissolution of the Soviet Union, but after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, no one benefited more. He both. If the Soviet Union still existed, Putin would still be a KGB officer, not a Russian president with as many powers and resources as he is today. Q. What is the importance of US shale oil in the context of the Ukraine crisis? A. I was once yelled at by Vladimir Putin in front of 3,000 people for asking about Slate. That event had a huge impact on me. I realized there were two reasons. One is that he knows that shale gas is competing with Russian gas in Europe, and he is right. Second, he also understands that this will be a geopolitical asset for the United States. It would give America flexibility in world affairs, something it would not have if it had to import 60% of its oil. It has always been clear to me that, if America's energy position changes, then they will be of great geopolitical importance. Imagine if there were no shale oil revolution, no LNG, and the US would not be self-sufficient in oil. Then the world would be a different world. If we look back at the oil crisis of the 1970s, then all the industrialized countries were engaged in a frenzied scramble for oil supplies. But now, the US does not have to compete with Japan or Western Europe. Q. Do the US government's environmental policies conflict with the need to promote shale oil production? A. The Biden administration didn't care much. In fact, they didn't care about the oil industry, until November 2021. Then, at the end of the year, the energy minister actually encouraged more oil production. At that time, the big focus was still on fighting climate change. But now there is recognition that oil and gas are indeed strategically and politically important. There are conflicting policies, and if you are the owner of a company and are about to invest, at least you need to have a solid picture of where things will go in the future.